So it appears that things are heating up at the Bundy Ranch once again. And like always, we have something that is going to change the narrative of everything that is to come. Racism now came into the picture, which is a great way to divide people into different groups in order for the government to keep us from uniting and fighting the real problem, which is our liberties being taken away, our rights being taken away, our Constitution being taken away. You know, this whole thing about Democrats, Republicans, blacks, whites, cowboys, Indians, to me really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, first of all, we're all human beings. Second of all, we're all American citizens. And if this is affecting us, all the other stuff that comes along with it shouldn't really matter. Here's my thing on the whole Mr. Bundy's comments about blacks and Mexicans and whatever. First things first, he's an old guy. You know, am I saying that what he said was okay? No. Do I think he's a racist? No. Am I white? No. I think he is most definitely ignorant to the ways of life of people outside of his ranch. Just as me or anybody else that doesn't know anything about the ranching lifestyle is ignorant about that. The mainstream media wasn't around when this first started, but they're quick to jump on the whole racism thing because, you know, as a lot of us know, the mainstream media is owned by the government, and they're going to use that since they couldn't kill these people. They're going to use that to, once again, divide us and keep us right where they want us. As far as Mr. Cliven Bundy, I think he's a human being. I think he is breaking the law, but I don't think the law is according to the Constitution. You hear all these people talking about how he doesn't do this and he owes this and he owes that. The man is willing to pay the state. He doesn't agree with paying the federal government because before 1993 he wasn't paying the federal government. You know, now they come in and they give you this big story about a tortoise that's almost instinct. At the same time, they're killing this tortoise, and you know, you have to dig deeper than what you're hearing and what people want you to believe. Like I said, I believe this guy is ignorant, and there is nothing wrong with being ignorant. I don't think he's a racist. I don't think I just don't understand why we're getting so far away from the truth. The truth is, our liberty is at stake. Laws are going to change, maybe even some gun laws, maybe even some, it doesn't matter, the whole Republican, Democrat, black, white, it doesn't matter. We're all human beings in a situation that is going to affect us, it's going to affect our kids, and it's going to make life in the United States not what life is now or what life was when our parents were young. This country's changing, and it's changing because of people like our president, Barack Obama. You know, I can honestly say that in 2008, I voted for Barack Obama because his whole change speech really had me thinking that life was going to be different. It is different, but it isn't the different that I thought it was going to be. Now, I could tell you that I used to be a Democrat, and I used to think Republicans were racist, and it's just a big game. It's a big game that the government plays, and you can try to convince most black people that Barack Obama is the worst president in the history of the United States, and you're going to get in an argument with people. You can try to convince white people that Barack Obama is... It's just... I don't understand why people don't get past the paradox of Democrat, Republican. It doesn't do anything for humans at all. We should think about our kids. We should think about the future of this country and where it's going. Not whether Mr. Cliven Bundy is a racist against blacks, Mexicans. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And if we get away from the real thing. Now, you have people saying that he's got militia. No, people seen something wrong with what was going on, myself included, and he had people come out and help to stop something that, like many of us are aware, would have been different if it wasn't for these armed people there to help him. Am I saying that it was a good idea? No, I'm not saying it was a good idea. But at the same time, the government isn't going to stop doing what they're doing. And they need to realize that, you know, if people stand up, and I think the government does realize that people are standing up and uniting as human beings and not as blacks or cowboys or whatever else. And it's making a difference. And guess what? The mainstream media is going to come in and start this whole racist thing to divide us once again so that they can keep us in control. I mean, it's common sense. You know, I stopped this whole Democrat-Republican crap right after I got fooled in 2008 with Barack Obama's promises and how Guantanamo was going to close and how, you know, then they brought in the Patriot Act, and then you have Bush, you have Barack Obama. They're the same. It's the same party working for different people. They want to move the agenda. They'll use Republicans to have the white people happy. They want to move the agenda even further. They'll use Democrats to get the minorities happy. And it's an ongoing back and forth that makes no sense. We're losing this battle. And this idiot from the Young Turks just completely fits into what I'm trying to say as far as, you know, the media making this something that it isn't. It's about rights, it's about humans, and it's not about cows or turtles. Here's the video.
Now, Cliven Bundy is a questionable character. If you've been living in a cave the last couple of weeks, you don't know who he is. He's the guy who has had his cattle grazing on federal land for a long time and not paying grazing fees. 16,000 other farmers pay it, but Cliven Bundy thinks he's above the law, and in fact, he doesn't even recognize the federal government. Let me give you a quote about that, because it's pretty much exactly what he said. Quote, "I don't recognize the United States government as even existing." Okay, thank you, Mr. Anarchist. By the way, these guys every once in a while claim to be patriots. No, that would be the exact opposite of the definition of a patriot. When you say, "I don't believe in the United States even existing." Thank you. We appreciate that. And he's also, of course, a moocher and a thief because everybody else pays that. It's our land. It's public land. That means it belongs to all Americans. So when he doesn't pay that fee, he is stealing from you and me. But he thinks that he's not the problem. You know, this got resolved in a terrible way. They gave his cattle back. They were going to take his cattle until he paid the fine, like they do with every other farmer. but they gave it back because he came with guns. Him and his militia showed up with weaponry. The federal government got intimidated. They thought people might die, so they gave him his cattle back. It's just outrageous. If anybody else did that, can you imagine new Black Panther Party shows up with weapons and says, I'm going to kill federal workers until you give me what I want? You think they would have had the same reaction? No way, right? So we know that. But it's interesting because he actually has a different take on African Americans. He thinks they're the ones getting all the advantages. He's been giving these press conferences, even after the situation got resolved, every single day. Because once you get the spotlight, you know, these guys, they can't let it go. Why are you still giving press conferences? But if you let an idiot like this keep talking, he's going to find some rope and hang himself with it. So here he goes.
I want to tell you one more thing I know about the Negro. When I go through Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and I would see these little government houses, and in front of that government house, the door was usually open, and the older people and the kids, and there's always at least a half a dozen people sitting on the porch. They didn't have nothing to do. They didn't have nothing for their kids to do. They didn't have nothing for their young girls to do. And because they were basically on government subsidy, and so now what do? They abort their young children. They put their young men in jail because they never learned how to pick cotton. And I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves picking cotton, having family life and doing things, or are they better off under government subsidy?
Transfer. They just transferred it, that's all.
Yeah, they didn't get no more freedom. They got less freedom.
If you didn't hear the first sentence, he said, I want to tell you one more thing I know about the Negro. Apparently, he thinks they would have been better off as slaves picking cotton, then at least they'd be doing something and not mooching off the government. What a classy guy. Okay, now let's talk about mooching, right? First of all, do you know that if he paid his grazing fee, he would still be getting a giant federal subsidy? It takes so much more money to manage that federal land than the money they get from the grazing fees. So they're actually subsidizing all those ranchers when they charge them a small grazing fee. Now, look, we might as a society decide that's okay. It is public land. If they pay a smaller price than they should, than they would in an open market, we're comfortable with that. But it is a government subsidy that this moocher has been getting all along. But it's actually worse than that because he won't even pay the small fee that the government charges all other farmers. So then you're not a moocher, you're a thief. So this guy has the audacity, the nerve, to go around telling people, the Negro is taking too much money from the government. How about the money you stole from the government? How about the money you stole from all of us when you don't pay that incredibly reasonable subsidized fee that every other farmer pays? Now you're going to go talk about how black people are aborting all their kids and would be better off as slaves. How would they be better off as slaves? Why don't you go be a slave, Cliven Bundy, see how much you like it? Let's get your fat ass to pick some cotton. Get down there on the ground and pick some cotton. Let me see how much you like it. Oh, no, I misunderstood. You're white and you have guns. So you're different. Oh, I didn't know that. This guy is a loathsome character. Look at all the love that they poured on this guy. Republicans like Governor Rick Perry from Texas, Rand Paul, Fox News day in, day out. Sean Hannity, the government is threatening you. Oh, poor you. You're a patriot. You're a hero. That's what they called him. By the way, after the press conference, Fox News, who had been covering this nonstop, immediately stopped covering Cliven Bundy because they didn't want anybody to hear that tape. 9 straight hours, not one word about Cliven Bundy. In fact, the first person to mention it was Joe Trippi, who's a Democratic consultant. And this is what happened. Here, look at Gretchen Carlson. Cut him off immediately.
The federal government cannot approve a route that the state of Nebraska hasn't approved. And the same people, by the way, who argue about Bundy Ranch, that the feds are coming in.
All right, let's not bring that into this discussion. I don't want to bring that into this discussion. All right, Tony, respond to that, please.
Don't bring that into the discussion. That's our patriot and our hero. Oh, did you find out he's a racist prick? Oh, no, shh. Don't tell our audience. Harry Reid put out some great statements today. He said Cliven Bundy has spent decades profiting off of government land while refusing to pay the same fair use fees as his fellow ranchers. Today, Bundy revealed himself to be a hateful racist. You go get him. I never thought I'd support Harry Reid this much. He went on to say, but by denigrating people who work hard and play by the rules while he mooches off of public land, he also revealed himself to be a hypocrite. The bottom line is that elected officials and those in positions of power or influence have a responsibility to unite behind the basic principle that we are a country of laws and that whatever our differences, it is unacceptable for individuals to use violence or the threat of violence to advance their radical views. That is 100% right. It would be unacceptable under any other circumstance. We got to stop getting bullied by right-wing militia, hateful people. They don't just hate minorities, as in this case. They hate America. They don't even believe in the United States even existing. They don't believe the federal government has any power. They don't believe the federal government can collect taxes, can own land, and can look out for all of us. Because Cliven Bundy doesn't care about all of us. All he cares about is his own sorry, racist, mooching, stealing ass.
After watching that video a couple of times, I don't understand what the point or the purpose was behind it. And at this point, I don't care. Do I agree with Alex Jones and the crazy shit that he says? Not most of the time. Do I know Pete Santilli or James Yeager? No, I do not. Do I believe they're domestic terrorists? No, I do not. Do I believe that they came to Mr. Bundy's help because they thought he was trying to be controlled by the federal government? Yes. Do I agree with what they did? I think that if we don't start understanding that the government is taking over our rights, is destroying the Constitution, and that it doesn't matter if Obama's black, he doesn't care about the black people, which is what we thought, we including myself. It isn't about that. It's about the banks, it's about the corporations, and it's not about blacks, whites, Indians, or any other race that lives here in the United States. It's about corporations, and we need to understand that we are human beings first, living in the United States, so that we can unite and do something about being treated like the cattle that they're trying to make us believe is in the way of a turtle. Wake up, people. Wake up.